Hey, rookies, and welcome back to the Rookie Farmer Podcast. This is the home of the dreamers, the schemers, and the hustlers in small scale agriculture. I am your host, Alec. I am the farmer of Crop Culture Farm here in New Bern, Georgia. And one of the great benefits that I have to doing this podcast, other than getting to talk to you amazing people every single week, is that this gives me a really good excuse and opportunity to interact and maybe meet for the first time some folks that I've interacted with online or I met at a conference or we've emailed back and forth. And this week is no different. We sit down with Brittany and Richard of Sun and Soil Farm in Madison, North Carolina. Now, Brittany and Richard and I have been corresponding back and forth, liking posts on Instagram for about a year now. They followed us last year when we were doing Farm Startup, and they put out a post on Instagram that told me we have to sit down and talk. We have to do this. They put out their full financials for the year of 2024, how much their sales were for the various parts of the farm, how much their income was, how much they spent on things like fertilizer and soil amendments and so on and so forth. And we get into a bulk of that in the episode. We also touch on what it's like to be a couple, both working full time on a quarter-acre farm and the various little businesses that are inside the farm other than just selling produce, like doing a plant sale and also getting people to pay them to take their vegetable scraps and turn it into compost that they get to use on their farm. There's lots of great stuff that we get into this episode. So sit tight and let's get into this one with Brittany and Richard of Sun and Soil Farm. All right. So it is the beginning of the second week of January when we're recording this, which means for a lot of us here in the Southeast, we are hunkered down, enduring some winter weather, some worse than others, particularly with our guests today. We have Richard and Brittany of Sun and Soil Farm. And thank you guys for joining us today.
Thank you for having
thanks for having us.
Excited.
I reached out to you guys pretty quickly after I saw your end of year finance post, which is the reason why we're doing this at this point, because like a lot of farms, we're all sort of finishing up our numbers for 2024, seeing where our sales are at, how much did we spend on, or I should say, how much did we overspend on things like seed and so on and so forth. And so I figured this would be a pretty applicable episode to sit down and to break all that down. But before we get into that, I would love to just get a little bit more background to kind of who you guys are, talk to us about Sun and Soil Farm and kind of what your whole thing is.
Where's Sun and Soil Farm? We're located in Madison, North Carolina. So we have a 4-acre, mostly wooded site here. Around our house is where it's cleared. And we farm a quarter acre. And that's like within the fence line. So not like every inch of that has beds on it, but the majority of it does at this point. Mm-hmm. We've kind of, as we've been doing this, we've covered more and more, less pathways, more beds, just squeezing in every inch of growing space we can. And I guess we started and we had a personal garden for several years, and that kind of transitioned more into a farm. Richard left his job in 2021, and he was doing it full time from then. And then in 2023, I left my job. Now we're both full time farming our property.
Yeah, we kind of just stumbled into it because during COVID, I was working at a gym. All the gyms shut down. And we built a greenhouse, and I kind of just finally had some space and some tools to get stuff started and just fell in love with the work. And once the gym said that they were reopening, I just couldn't go back. I wanted to love going back there, but getting the taste of that just really made us kind of start thinking about if we could do it or not. So we dove in.
Yeah, and
I started then.
Because I didn't think Richard was ever going to want to farm. He used to hate doing gardening tours with me. And then once he got his interest peaked, I was like, oh, I think it's going to happen.
Sorry.
We have 2 cats. But yes, that's kind of how it started. And then it's just really grown since then.
Yeah, I really feel like 2020, I mean, for most of the modern world, at least, 2020 was such a pivotal time but especially I feel like in kind of the farm space, so many people pivoted from either doing farmers markets exclusively to incorporating some sort of like online on farm pickup or whatever. Or similar to myself, it sounds like that a lot of us sort of decided in that moment that it's like, all right, we're seeing bare shelves, we're seeing a lack of opportunity for the regular food that we have, and our health and things are suddenly a much bigger priority than they previously were. And yeah, and I think some people went in one direction, and then there's a whole group of us that are all like, yeah, we're going to start farming and we're not going to look back. And so it's cool to hear. Obviously, it took me a few years to sort of get my ducks in a row, but it's cool to know that it was in that time that was sort of the crucible that allowed you to begin to do that. So that's really cool. Now, do you guys still live in a tiny house, or
No,
is that
we
just
no. We met in Chicago. I was born and raised there. We met in Chicago after she moved there from Kansas.
Mhm.
And we lived in the city for a couple years, and we kind of like decided like we needed to change our lifestyle. We really got into like learning about like where our food was coming from and how we could like change our health with food. So after that, we decided we needed to like figure out what we were going to do with our lives, because we were kind of just like in Chicago, like we weren't like doing anything. And
Yeah, we had found the food co-op there, and that
yeah,
was
yeah.
really the like I think that place like changed our life more than anything because
the
we found
farming
out
gateway
the
drug?
farmers. Yeah, and
Mm.
farmers markets and like, oh, what if we grew it ourselves? Like that would be even better than this. So that's kind of
And we had a say in like
yeah.
you could be a part of like the community that was like buying the food and like supplying the food for the community. It was cool to be able to like be a part of that.
Yeah.
And then so we built the tiny house planning to move somewhere at some point that we could grow food.
Yeah.
I don't know how you came up with North Carolina, but you came up with North Carolina.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. How did you guys
Yeah.
end
I
up
think
in
yeah,
that's
North
like
it's
Carolina?
just we just decided like the climate, I guess. And
every single person we talked to about North Carolina, nobody said anything bad.
yeah.
It was like one of those places that just kind of seemed like everybody was like, "Oh, I visited there on vacation one time and I loved it," or "My cousin lives there,"
Mhm.
things like that. And we were like, "All right, let's try it." So we came out here on a road trip and toured some different places where we could park the tiny house, and somehow ended up in the Piedmont. We thought we were going to be like closer to the ocean, or we would be in the mountains, and
Mhm.
we're right here in the middle. And I'm glad we ended up here. It's a
Yeah.
really great place to live and to farm.
Yeah. And once we found land here, we sold the tiny house because we could put all that towards the mortgage. And that
Yeah.
kind of part of like the more finance thing is that was that part of that decision to try to get rid of a lot of the debt from the new house. And so we sold the tiny house.
Gotcha. And so was the original plan, you said you bought 4 acres, was the original plan just a homestead?
Yeah, kind of just have our own space.
I
And
kinda always thought I would wanna have a farm someday,
Mhm.
but, like, way far away, like, I don't know when that would happen, but I always aspired to be a farmer,
yeah,
but I didn't know if it would happen on this property or if it would happen
yeah.
somewhere else. I wasn't sure.
I guess it was inevitable. The first thing we did was lay down cardboard and killed all the grass. So it's like almost immediately started garden beds. So
Yeah.
That's awesome. What were
yeah.
some of those early inspirations for you guys? Like people, who are you reading, who are you listening to that really kind of sparked the interest into small ag?
You really got started
Curtis
in
Stone,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
first Curtis Stone, that was, like, around
Oh
that
yeah.
time.
Justin Rhodes way back in the day
Yeah,
when
for
he
sure.
was
And then a lot more, like, leaning towards, like, the permaculture side of
Mhm.
things, like, at first. We also had a friend who lived in his tiny house on our property, and
Mhm.
he had worked on farms, so he kinda helped us. We had only really ever gardened in, like, containers before
Mhm.
and a few, like, garden beds, but
pathetic. The tomato plants and chard
yeah.
plants and stuff like that.
Like,
But
sugar snaps where there's, like, this much stem between each sugar
yeah.
snap. So it was definitely a learning curve
Mhm.
of figuring out how to actually grow food, and I did a lot of seed saving at first. That was
Mhm.
our garden was just like a giant everything had gotten a seed, and I was so excited about it because
Yeah.
I wanted to save all the seeds. But
Yeah. But then, yeah. And then we kind of just kept at it. And
yeah.
then COVID happened and I was like, think we could do this. Like having like 6 months of like, I was getting paid for unemployment because everything was closed. And I was like,
Yep.
I could just do whatever. Like we could just try whatever. And went to a market with a friend that was already selling there, sold some stuff. And I came back. I was like, I made like $40, like
Oh
just
my
selling stuff.
god, yeah.
Like, oh my
People
God, like we
actually
could
bought my
farm.
vegetables.
Yeah.
I was like, no way.
Yeah.
You
So,
Yeah.
sold your kale?
yeah.
So
But
to touch on the Curtis Stone angle of it, what
mhm.
about that was appealing? Was it the size? Because obviously you guys are growing on like a similar footprint to what he was doing at that time. Was it the like the numbers? Was it the sort of the suburban urban aspect? Like what were the things of his work that really kind of piqued your interest in the like, I think we can do this.
I think it was like kind of like him coming at it from the angle of like, how can we be successful?
Mhm.
You know, like not like,
Yeah.
oh, let's try to grow this, that, and the other. It's like, all right. Well, and I worked at a food co-op, so I like had worked in the produce department and really seen like what do people like to buy. So like kind of like the Curtis own stuff plus my experience like selling produce at a grocery store, knowing like
And working at Fair Share.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I worked at a farm for a short period of time as
Okay.
well.
Hmm.
But it's like I love data personally. So like I think Curtis Stone's stuff, he was really focused on like dollars per bed foot and
Hmm.
like the really high yielding crops.
Hmm.
And like how having that data can really empower you to like make informed decisions.
And just the accessibility
Yeah.
of like seeing Curtis Stone. It's like, oh, you can just do this. Like you just need maybe some covered space and whatever you have free in your, like, you just need like a wash and pack and some beds.
And then you just
It
need
was like,
people's yards. You need
yeah, it was
backyards,
very
front
simple.
yards.
And he would show
Yeah.
videos and people were doing it all different ways. And it's just, I was during like COVID, I was watching all the Jesse Frost stuff, all the no-till
Mhm.
growing stuff. And it was just like, this is, we have the space. So like we can make 30-inch beds and just fit them in wherever we have space.
Mhm.
Just didn't seem, all those people made it seem like very accessible. Like, oh, you could just do this. Like, no matter what budget, you can figure it out.
Yeah, you don't need to have like a bunch of capital to pour into it. Like you
Mhm.
can kind of, you know, as you're making money, put it back into the business. And
Yeah, we've done things the hard way for a long time, and
Yeah. Yeah.
slowly had the ability to turn those into like the more mechanical things or the newer tools or whatever.
Mhm.
So we definitely struggled, and some of our friends that have farms still think we're crazy the way we do things, but the
Eh,
size works, and we can do things the hard way sometimes because we have time to do it. So
yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's really cool to see. It's almost like that we're a part of this new generation of farms that are coming that are really, yeah, like of a new generation. It's like so many people that I listen to, they're like, I discovered the new organic grower, I discovered Elliot Coleman, and then realized that like, oh my gosh, this whole world is open up to me. And now it people like myself, people like you guys, it's like we, we listen to Diego's podcast. We hadn't found Curtis Stone. We listened to Jesse Frost and all this sort of stuff, and it opened my eyes. And it's really cool to see that we are kind of this new wave of small scale agriculture coming from the guys who learned from those guys,
yeah.
and it's really cool. And yeah, I would agree with you. It was Joel Salatin was sort of the heart inspiration to get into this, and then it was Curtis that was like the real world. Oh, this can happen. Like we can make money. We can make this a living, and not just like some sad little, yeoman farmer. Like it's the meme. Like it's not much, but it's honest work. Like it's
Yeah.
like, oh no,
Yeah.
we can do this, and it's actually like a real good life. And so yeah, that's really cool.
Oh, and I
Uh,
think Josh Satin too. Shout out to Josh Satin. I don't know if he does videos as much anymore, but
yeah, I don't know. I've
his
been
we learned a
meaning
lot
to
from him
put some
too.
feelers out and see what he's up to. Because he's
Yeah, yeah.
how far are you guys from where he was at?
He's close. He's probably only about an hour. He's an hour east of us.
Yeah.
So I think he has like maybe the further east from us you go, you get a little bit warmer
Mhm.
during the winter. But
Mhm.
yeah, he's not far. And seeing what he was doing, we're like, that was even, I think he probably had smaller space than we have now.
Mhm.
And he was still crushing it. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool. So
Mhm.
give me kind of a quick rundown. What was that first year of business like for you
Yeah,
guys?
God. So when we first decided, like after nights scratching in a notebook, how many bunches if we could bring 20 bunches of this for $3, how much do we, after all that, after we decided like,
Yep.
all right, let's go for it. I'll quit my job. I'll do as much as I can and we'll just see what happens. It was kind of just like, we'll see what happens. Brittany has her job. I didn't make tons of money working at the gym. So we were like, we can do this for like a year and see what happens. So I think we just spent a bunch of our own money. I built fences.
Yeah.
That was like the first thing I did. I built fences, just kept seedlings going. We got a bunch of trays. We got some new hoses and stuff, I think.
Yeah.
Just really making like all the beds the same, trying to figure out seed starting and
you're
timing.
Like, learning a lot about like fertility.
Yeah, trying to figure
when
out.
it was just like a garden, we didn't really add anything at all.
Yeah, we just did compost.
Yeah,
Yep.
so he was learning about that, and we were seeing really the impact that has on plants when
Yeah.
they're actually like in ideal growing conditions, how much better things grow.
Yeah.
Did you guys have more of the approach of like, let's build out a small farm and then start farming? Or was it more, we're going to start farming and then like, all right, now we have to start building stuff out?
Yeah, I think towards the end of COVID, like right before everything opened up again, I was kind of just like racing to get some beds made. And it's like, we can just keep doing this. I can just keep working at the gym. Like we got all these new beds that I made. Like, let's just see what we can grow in this. We'll go to the farmer's market on the weekends. And when we finally decided to quit, I think I felt like we had enough beds. So we kind of just went with what we had.
And
it was
we decided to have a crop plan that year as
well.
well.
Yeah. Instead of me just writing stuff on a whiteboard. Like
Richard's like the hardest working like person in the world, but he needs a plan.
Yeah.
And he needs to know what needs to get done. So
yeah, I normally would do my crop planning like while I'm on the Johnny's website buying seed. I'm like, let's do that this year. That sounds good.
Yeah, I was like, people start beans in like April and May. Like, we'll start some beans. Like, just have no plan of what's going in after that or what was in there before. So
yeah, we built our first spreadsheet that year for crop planning, and that kind of, it's gotten refined a lot over the years with more data that we've been able to plug into it. But
yeah, and I think we just kept track of what we made at the market and then what we spent. But that was just like our own money before it was even like its own separate
then we just
business.
Put all the money we made that year right back in.
Yeah, I think we only made like 10 or 12,000.
Yeah, we made like $11,000.
Probably spent like 15, I think, or something like that.
When you say you made that, is that like gross? Like that's what your sales were?
Yeah, like gross. Yeah, it was like about break even. We probably spent a little more than what we made, but that was kind of a gift. We kind of knew that was going to happen. We were like, at the end of the year, we're like, all right, we broke even. Like we were kind of prepared for that because there's tons of fencing that we did. We had to buy tons of trays and stuff. And it was just a lot of new things that we knew we were going to have. We just didn't have. So we had to buy them first.
Right.
So it kind of worked out like to break even. And then I think after that, I was even up to now at the end of every year, I'm like, I can do better. Like we can get the crop plan better. I can grow better stuff. We can pick better things. So we did it another year. The second year, I don't know how much we spent, but we got to like 26,000. And I was like, oh my, more than double like what we made last year. Like we can totally do this.
Yeah.
I think,
have you been on this quarter acre size like since the beginning? Or did you start smaller and like incrementally get larger?
It was a little small. We probably added
we had less beds.
Yeah, we had less beds, but it was in the same space. And I think every year we added maybe like 5 or 10 beds.
Okay.
Like 25-foot beds.
So we do everything in 25-foot beds. We have a few 50-foot, but most of them are 25. It's just kind of how it worked out. And we found out 25 is like a perfect space for like harvesting for a market. Like 25 feet was like just worked out with what we could sell at our market.
Yeah, like you can harvest all the arugula or whatever. That's exactly what you need for one.
Yeah, like a 25-foot bed of radishes. Solid, like great for one market. So we stuck with that. And then this year we snuck in the last 2 25-foot beds I think we could possibly fit in the space. So we're like fence to fence, like there's beds I can reach outside right now and touch one of the beds out our window. So they're packed in. This is probably the most, but compared to last year is about the same. So the last 2 years have been the same growing space.
Cool. And what do your sales outlets look like?
So we are mostly farmers market. That's our biggest one. It's like
what percent? That's like 80%.
I think it's 80%. And then we have a 11-member CSA that we do in spring, summer, and fall. And then we do a little bit of wholesale. We sell to the food co-op I used to work at, which is amazing to have that connection.
Yeah, it's mostly just spring and fall stuff for the co-op.
Yeah, and then we do some like one-off sales. We do like seedling sales in the spring.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go do like, there's like a really big one in the town close to us. So
seedling sales are big for us in the spring. Yeah. That's like a really good boost of sales that we can like feel really good about going into like the spring and the summer. So we do big. We built a new greenhouse last year, so we'd have the space to like keep doing those in the beginning in the spring.
Yeah.
Yeah, I keep hearing more and more folks talk about that. And actually, there's a farm 10 minutes down the road from me. They started out doing that. I mean,
they're... Our cat do me. It's 1 second.
Oh, it's fine.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, there's a lot more farms now that I've seen that are starting to do plant sales. Actually, there's a pretty large cooperative farm down the road from me, Love is Love cooperative farm, that started out doing a plant sale. And now it's turned into actually they do like wholesale trays to other growers. And they've actually taken it the next step and have become like a commercial supplier for other farms doing that. And so is that a part of the business that you guys think that you want to continue to expand? Because obviously, yes, it requires a certain amount of square footage, but you're not talking like we have to add 15 extra beds to increase your profit margin.
Yeah. Well, it's something that's easy for us to grow. Like it's easy for us to grow that portion of the business because seedlings are like a quick turnaround thing, kind of like microgreens are. You know, like you don't have to take care of them for that long. They don't take up a lot of square footage. And in the spring, like everybody wants plants. It's like, everybody gets that plant fever. And we're like, I'm a like diehard plant person. So I love talking to people about plants. So like selling people plants is just like, to me, it's so much fun. And I also love greenhouse work. So I love the work of like starting the seeds and potting them up. So it's like, whenever you actually like the task, it's a lot more fun to do it.
And with the little bit of space we have, everyone in North Carolina down south, everyone grows. They got their pepper they want to grow, their tomato slicers they want to grow, their green beans. So it's really like, it's a hard thing not to do when we have the greenhouse space so early in the spring. Like it gets crazy. We're walking over plants all the time or moving stuff in and out because it's getting packed. But it's just, people want them early and we have a cutoff and we stop selling them and then we're into spring already. And it's just such a boost and everyone here wants plants. So
yeah.
And do you guys sell those from the farm or are you selling those do you put it as that a part of your display like at the farmer's market that you do?
Yeah, we take them to the farmer's market. Our farmer's market does like a plant sale day. So that's cool. A big one. And then we go to a second farmer's market that has a big plant.
Yeah, they have like a big indoor space and they have a huge plant sale every year. People look forward to it. They drive from like Virginia down there. So it's a really popular thing. We were amazed. It was our first year last year at that market and we were blown away. People were just like grabbing stuff off the table and like throwing money at you. We're like, what is going on?
Yeah, we should have brought like at least twice as many plants as we did.
Yeah.
This year we're going to be way better prepared.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had no idea it was going to be such a big like sales day for us with seedlings.
And how does that?
We do ours in compostable pots. I think that's another thing. Like,
that was my next question. What are you guys using for that?
Yeah. So last year is our first year using them, and it's definitely a learning curve because they just do not perform the same way a plastic pot does. Like plastic pots are definitely superior in terms of like ease of use
and longevity. But, we definitely have to time it out when we're like potting stuff up into those and be like, all right, we need time to grow the roots, but like we really can't be watering these for a month. Like
they're a ticking time bomb. They're compostable for a reason.
Yeah. But people love it. People were excited that they weren't gonna have a bunch of plastic stuff, and we used to like reuse old plastic cups, and it just was chaos in the greenhouse. Nothing was the right size or the same size. So that year we switched to that and worked out well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I almost wonder if there was a way of not necessarily like a full blown like wind strip, it's like super heavy duty, but something a little bit more sturdy than like a cheap, flimsy little plastic one where you could almost do it with like a deposit. Like, all right, here's a 4 cell, thing, and you pay an extra, I don't know, $2-3, And then it's like if you bring it back the next week or whatever, then you can, like, oh yeah, we'll give you your money back, and then they can just get reused a couple of seasons. I haven't looked into it, but I wonder if there's a way where you can continue to like cut down on like single use plastic, but also be a little bit more efficient than having to like time everything out with these little compostable pots or going broke on solo cups.
Yeah, for sure. No, there has to be like some solutions. And I think like hopefully, the compostables will get better. I think they will like
I mean, I think just the timing is like most of them are fine, but
yeah, it's just the greenhouse gets so hot, so we're having to water them, twice a day. And that's really the downfall is when they're getting watered that much.
We know. That's the other thing that our bigger we have for 3 years, we worked out of just a 10 by 12 little greenhouse we built. So the newer one is like a hoop house. It's a cattle panel, like hoop house that we did. And it's a lot bigger, but we have no electricity out there. So the little house, we have fans and exhaust fans that we can use. So that one, we're still trying to figure out. It's got roll up sides, but still figuring that out a little.
Yeah.
Would you guys ever see yourself in the future actually scaling back your vegetable production to increase the ability to do more plant sales and let that become a bigger part of the business?
I don't know, maybe.
I think we'd have to have like a better infrastructure for scaling. For sure. And then more like maybe like some retail outlet for them or something like that. But
because we already hit like the 2 biggest like plant sales, and then the co-op does one too that we do in the parking lot, and that one's usually pretty good too. But those are like really the big 3, and then we bring them to the market every weekend for like 2 months. So I mean, that is like probably we could sell more just like based on varieties or people wanting certain things that we have. But I think I just love harvesting and flipping beds. Like that's what I love. I love that kind of work, but I would do the seed sale too, because it's so early in the season. It like really gets me excited to like start planting and stuff. So
and it's probably a nice little flush of cash too at the beginning of the season.
Oh, for sure. And it helps cover your seed costs if you think about it, because
we just did some math.
That's true. I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah, seeds are so expensive. Then you're like, oh, wait, I could take this one packet of seeds, and if I'm going to sell each seedling for $4, like, done.
Yeah.
So
you make your money back on a pack of seeds with like 6 plants. So it's like, it's easy to justify doing some plant sales because you always have some extra. You can never buy the exact amount of seeds you need anyway.
Right.
So
it's cool. Now tell me a little bit. I'm really interested in your kind of community composting program that you guys have going on.
Yeah.
I think that was really cool.
Well,
that was her idea.
We didn't invent it. When we lived in Chicago, we used a service like this. So we had a 5-gallon bucket, and we would fill it up with our food scraps, and then I would bike it to the food co-op and swap it for an empty bucket. So that was kind of like planted the seed in our head. And then when we started going to the farmer's market each week, it's like, we're here already. Like, we could offer that service to people coming to the farmer's market. For people who can't compost or don't want to compost, but don't want their food waste going to the landfill. So we decided to start the service.
And out of the need for compost. Like the first year, I think I spent like almost $1,000 on compost, and like a quarter of that was getting it delivered.
Yeah.
And we're like, we've always made some sort of compost. So if we could just get that huge amount of veggie scraps to come in, we can rake up leaves. We used to drive around and fill up our car with leaves from Greensboro. And that's really all we've ever needed. I can add some nitrogen in to like speed up some compost if we need it. But it was so easy. And it was like a thing that we could make some money, but also save tons of money and make better compost than we can buy anywhere around here.
Yeah, but the way our program works, so we operate it only through our farmer's market. So it's $20 for somebody to join, and that gets them an empty bucket. We have to, for each member of the service, we have to have 2 buckets and 2 of those like spin-on lids. So that's where the cost is, because they always have a bucket at their house, and then we have to have an empty bucket for them for when they come to return it. So it's $20 to join, and then it's $3 to swap the bucket. So we have some people who come every week to the farmer's market and swap their bucket, and some people come once a month. It's, whatever the customer
whatever they
wants to
want.
do.
I bet that's a nice, good month-old food scrap bucket.
Yeah, none of them. I mean, I feel like ours is always the grossest.
The one in our house.
Yeah, but none of them. I mean, it's really not that bad.
Yeah, it's just during fruit fly season. That's when it's the worst.
Yeah, the summer can get really gross. But
yeah.
But anyways, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just thinking.
Yeah.
You said a month, and I was like, "Ooh, a month-old food scrap."
Yeah, not as bad as you think.
Yeah, the ones that have like dairy in them are usually the stinkiest.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've seen our share of stinky, gross buckets. But
But yeah, that's pretty much how.
So you're actually charging people to collect their food scraps, then?
Yeah. Some people, we tell people that, and they're like, so how much compost do you give them? We're like, nothing. Like,
Nothing.
They know, they understand.
We sell that. We package it and sell it back to them for even more.
Yeah. I mean, and we did it living in Chicago. Like, we shouldn't have been spending $5, but we, like, every week or two, but we knew, like, we shouldn't be putting this in the landfill. It's going to go, someone's going to use it for a farm or something. It's going to go to good use. And
well, nobody gets anything back from the landfill.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
Thankfully, you don't get anything back.
Yeah.
But it's definitely our customers who do it they care a lot about the environment, so they see the value in it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
we took that survey one time, and I think almost half the people said we asked if they thought the amount they were paying was fair, and a lot said we should do $5.
Sweet.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we'll raise the price. I want it to be like less than a cup of coffee, because
especially if you're bringing it once a month.
It kind of just pays for the time it takes us to clean the bucket really well for them, so they never have to deal with a stinky bucket.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's really what I think the $3 is. And then the extra gas it takes for us to, haul a trailer to town with the buckets on it.
Yeah, and obviously it sounds like it's a program that's more geared towards people who are more environmentally conscious. But I mean, at the end of the day, you are providing a service to them. Yeah, I mean, yes, they could throw it in their trash can, but being a chicken owner who then eventually became a farmer, you realize, like, oh, when you don't have food in your trash, like you don't realize how much of the bulk of your trash, especially if you cook a lot at home, is food waste, and how much of the smell is just from food waste. And then I can remember when it was just my wife and I, and we were just really getting into kind of the first farm business that I started back in 2017. It was like a bag of trash, like, I don't know, every like week and a half. And so yeah, I mean, you are providing a service. You're creating like an alternate stream for their waste, but it's also good for the environment, but it's also good for your farm. So
and we also sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we also, our market, we live 45 minutes outside of Greensboro, but our market is like right in the heart of Greensboro. So I think people in the city that they can't really compost in their backyard or something, I think that is what makes it like appealing to them.
And do you just so I'm assuming you take it from there, and then you just sort of empty buckets into kind of piles, mix with some carbon, and then are you just turning piles by hand?
Yeah, so it's about an hour a week. We clean them. Once we just take all the buckets home after the market, we'll clean them that day or the next day. It takes about an hour. We just dump them in a pile. I throw some leaves on top, throw some water on them, like as I'm rinsing out the bucket. And then maybe like once a month, I'll flip all the piles. We just have like 5 or 6 bins that we.
Yeah, and they're just like pallets.
Yeah, just pallets.
Yeah,
really easy. It takes about an hour to flip all the piles. So it's really not that much work. It's just physical.
Yeah.
Procrastinated sometimes.
Yeah. And then in the bottom of every bucket, we put some biochar.
Yeah.
And I think that helps because every single bucket, it evenly dispersed in our compost pile. And we've been doing that for several, since we started the service.
Yeah, like 3 years.
Yeah,
so you like put that in the clean bucket before you give it to the customer.
Yeah.
After all the buckets are dry, when I'm putting them on the trailer, I'll just take I have like a little plastic cup and just put a little scoop in each bucket. And then based on how many buckets we're doing, that's about 5% of our compost is biochar, which I think is usually what people recommend for biochar use. So, and that is just an easy way to get that in the compost and get it into the beds without worrying about it when we're flipping beds.
And so what percentage of your customers do you think are like weekly Like weekly swaps?
We get like
It was like
between
10 that come, like
yeah.
5 or 10 that come
So
every
mostly
week.
kind of like every other week sort of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because we get between like maybe 20 to 30 buckets a week, but
Okay.
we have to 70 households.
Mhm.
We've signed up 70 people over the
Gotcha.
years. And some people have probably dropped out. It's hard to get people to respond to surveys and whatnot to know
Yeah,
for
right,
sure.
yeah.
But
I'd say it's like
yeah,
around 50 households that do it. And then most are bringing them like probably once or twice a month.
yeah.
Yeah, so if you're doing 20 to you said 20 to 30 buckets a week, it's
Yeah.
probably yeah, so you're looking at an extra, what is that? 60, 90 extra bucks a week for an hour's
Mhm.
worth of work, and you
Yeah.
get compost out of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not
Like
a
think
bad
how,
deal for us.
yeah. And like all the compost we've ever bought, like, I don't know. I kind of can tell what's in there, or the website will tell you mostly
Yeah.
what's in there, but you never really know. And I know exactly what's in there. We're getting random food from people. Well, there's some weird stuff that shows up in there, but for the most part, it looks like pretty just normal veggie and food scraps and stuff. So
Yeah.
I feel pretty confident that we're not getting any crazy, like pesticides or herbicides in there, or there's not like any like microplastics and stuff. So
And do you feel like you're able to produce enough compost for the operation from the program?
we can now. I think in the beginning we used tons of compost, it was like wheelbarrows full in each bed. And at this point now, just over the years, kind of like paying attention to stuff, I've only been adding like 1 or 2 5-gallon buckets of the compost to every bed flip. And it
Gotcha.
seems like it's enough now. I feel like having some of this natural clay mixed in, I feel like it's better that we're like fixing the soil now instead of growing in compost that's on top of the soil, no matter how good the
Yeah.
compost is. I feel like in the long run, fixing our soil is going to be better, and that clay kind of helps absorb water. There's a lot of minerals in there. So I
Mhm.
feel like we could probably just coast now, just a couple buckets when we do a bed flip in there.
Yeah, I feel like I'm the same way with my operation. I bought two 40 or dump truck loads, essentially, 2 dump truck loads of stuff
Yeah.
that I put on or, that I've been applying to beds, and it is getting to the point where it's like, I don't necessarily think I need to use a do a full several inch application every single year, and I can just kind of
Right.
do
Yeah.
more of a feeding of that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. A lot of the times, just recently, over like the last year, when I go to flip a bed, like we'll break out all the stuff, I'll broad fork it, and I'll be like, this feels good. Like, I don't think I need to be adding like 5 wheelbarrows to each bed. Like, so we just used a little less here and there. And now I think the compost that's really all we need now.
Yeah.
And it's not much. It's a couple wheelbarrows. Like every pile is maybe like 4 or 5 wheelbarrows full of compost.
That's
It's
how
not,
much we're making.
yeah, it's not
Yeah.
tons.
And while we're talking soil and compost, give me a little bit of an idea of your sort of management practices as far as the soil goes. I think you guys are no-till, correct?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. No till by like, I kind of got into that when we kind of just always did that just
Yeah,
because
for
we didn't
sure.
have a tractor.
Yeah.
We didn't have a tiller. Like we never had any of that. So
And we were starting a garden. So
Yeah.
yeah.
it was like you can do what you have to for a small garden.
Yeah. So
We pretty much started everything by putting compost. I mean, not compost, cardboard.
yeah.
We pretty much every inch of our farm space has had cardboard over at one point because we had Bermuda grass
Mhm.
here.
Mhm.
So that's how it got started. And we just added compost on top. And now
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
no
For
till.
a bed flip, I'll just take out the old crop, break stuff out, broad fork, throw down any amendments, and then top it with a little bit of compost, rake it clean, and plant right into it. Then wood chips in all the paths. We're doing a little less wood chips now. We've gotten some crazy rain recently. So I'm thinking just
A thin
a
layer.
thin layer, or else things get washed out and they ended up in the beds. So
Yeah.
Yeah, we used to do really deep wood chip pathways, and we're
Yeah.
kind of down to like maybe an inch. We
Yeah.
just do a little bit of refreshing in the winter of the pathways, but
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Doing
pretty
wood
simple.
chip pathways is a lot of work.
Yeah. 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 And we're at the point now where like we have a pretty solid raised bed in all the areas. And if we can just shovel out the path, we can use it somewhere else or throw it in the beds and then just sprinkle some wood chips down.
yeah.
Yeah. And did you guys say that you are kind of in the Piedmont region?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay, cool. So are we. So even though we're a good little ways apart, I guess we're kind of skirting around the mountains there, and kind of probably have pretty similar soils and pretty heavy clay.
yeah, super heavy clay, a lot of big rocks in there when you
Oh
get down
gosh.
like a foot or so. Like, yeah, we're like 10 minutes from the Virginia border. So
Okay.
we're like, you could almost call it like the foothills, but it's kind of just where some of the mountains like kind of start poking up. But
Mhm.
yeah, we're
Gotcha.
7B,
It
seven
changed.
A
Yeah, I think we're
changed this
7B.
year, but
Yeah, it sounds like we're probably working the same exact amount of stuff. Yeah, we're 7A, 7, like we're kind of cuspy right there, 7A,
yeah.
7B, similar soils. So that's cool. It's cool to know that we're gonna how has sort of the no-till thing been working for you? Because now you're what, 4 years into that now?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, stuff is in most of the beds. The broad fork just slides right in. Pests and
But that makes me
disease
so good to
gone
know
down
that I
so
can look
much.
forward to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we've never really done anything special. We didn't do any like initial tills. In a really bad spot, maybe I'll kind of like try to work up the soil,
Yeah.
but yeah, it'll just the general no-till like aspects have worked really well for us. We're not like super strict about it. If I had to start a new plot, I probably would till in some compost and amendments first
Yeah.
and then do no-till, but just out of just ease, it's just a little easier to do no-till with the hand tools and the size that we do.
Yeah.
Do you ever have any plans on moving to a level of mechanization like a BCS with like a power harrow or something to speed things up, kind of become more efficient?
I don't think
I,
so.
I would like to in some instances, like it would be nice like after peppers or okra to like just kind of like have like a low till with like a
Mhm.
BCS or something. But we really at the size and like how we've set things up, I couldn't even turn a BCS around in some areas.
Oh
Like
yeah, that's
it's
true.
literally like I could fit 1 foot in between the end of the bed and the fence. So
Yeah.
I just think I like the scale we're at and we keep improving every year. So we have time. I have time to do stuff. So
Yeah.
we're really big on like keeping this like amount of work we've been doing. It's been working well that we're not like killing ourselves every year.
Well, and there's two of us doing a quarter acre.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah, that's a lot of work that can be done in not a lot of space.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. If we work together while we're planting, it goes super fast. But other things like flipping beds, I can go do that while she does something else and
Yeah.
come back together to plant. And
Yeah.
we can get things done a lot quicker like that too.
So speaking of you guys working together, before we do your kind of 2024 breakdown, just talk to me a little bit about sort of what it took to get you guys onto the farm full time. Because like I said, yeah, doing two people full time on a quarter acre is pretty unusual, I would say, for even
Mhm.
small scale ag.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think it really came down to getting our personal finances right. So getting out of debt was what we had to do. We paid off our mortgage before we both decided to farm.
Yeah.
And we had a 1 year emergency fund. So even if things went horribly wrong, we would be
Yeah.
okay for an entire year.
And you still worked the
Yeah,
first 2 years.
yeah,
So.
for sure. 2023 was my first year.
Mhm.
And we're frugal people. We
Yeah.
don't need a lot of
Yeah.
money. It'd be great to have a little bit more, of course. But
Mhm.
you know, we
We live comfortable.
yeah, I
We
know.
do the things we want to do.
Yeah.
We can't, we were the theme of the last couple weeks. We can't go buy an Arc'teryx raincoat right now, but like we have the things we need. We can go buy the stuff we need. And
Yeah.
we're just very conscious of like how much money that we need to spend. And I'm a true minimalist. You could tell me to put everything I own in a backpack and I'll be fine.
Nice.
So I don't know. I think it's just both.
Yeah.
We just ended up that
And
we both just don't need a lot of stuff.
no.
And the things we do need, we really want them and need them and we save the money and we get it. So
Yeah, and then I think it's just that like focus on the business finances as well, like
Mhm.
on the data that we take every week, like what's selling, what's not selling, what crops are most profitable per bed foot, has really allowed us to grow our sales to where they are today.
Yeah, I think that's what makes the difference now. We didn't know that when we first started, but I think just knowing your personal finances, how much you need, and maybe how long you have to like really start getting things going. And it's going to be different for everyone. We were fortunate enough to like have this mindset before we even thought about starting a farm. So we were already had very little debt, and the debt we had was important, like a house and land. So
Yeah.
just knowing how you need and spend your money, and then you can make decisions from there.
Yeah, I guess let's get into the thing that everybody's been waiting for.
Yeah.
Let's break down everything. So we'll throw a link in the description to your Instagram post. Yeah, at Sun and Soil Farm on Instagram, and you can find there. It's a nice round graph.
You put on the website too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and yeah. So if you're listening to this or watching, you can pull that up and kind of follow along or reference it later. But yeah, I mean, if you just want to go ahead and kind of break that down and kind of give me sort of the idea of your numbers and sort of how it all works out.
Sure. Yeah, so our gross income, that's just, of course, just every dollar that we made from the farm in 2024. And most of it comes from produce. So it's like 34,000 from straight produce. And then
You didn't say the original.
oh,
So,
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. So our gross for the year last year was $50,393.
Which our best year ever.
Yeah.
So,
We can't believe it. Like,
and we did it a week before the end of the year.
Yeah, because according to your post, you were only expecting or you were projecting to do 46,000, correct?
Yeah, that was our goal.
yeah, 46 was our goal, which was 10,000 more from the year before.
Wow.
We increased by $10,000 every year.
Yeah.
Is our aim. So yeah,
Yeah.
we were hoping for 46 and we hit 50. So that was awesome.
Mhm.
And the bulk of it comes from produce, like I was saying. So about $34,000 from produce, and then an additional $3,700 from the CSA. So that's also
We also produce.
but
Yeah.
not sold at the farmer's market.
Mhm.
And then some other big numbers. Our compost program did almost $3,000 in bucket swaps for us.
That's awesome.
Seedlings, almost 4,000, which was a big increase from the year before. Having the second greenhouse really allowed us to ramp that up.
Oh, the flowers too.
Oh yeah, and then in the spring we do daffodils and tulips, and then in the summer we do sunflowers. So those are the 3 flowers that we grow to sell for the market.
We track those a little different because the tulips and daffodils are not like in our normal growing beds. They're in like special beds with mesh, so voles can't eat them. So
yeah,
we kind of track that a little separate.
yeah.
Now, sorry, I just wanted to ask with some of these different things, like obviously the CSA, it's more or less probably similar to your kind of farmers market produce sales, but with things like the flowers or the compost or the seedlings on a profit side, how do those sort of shake down compared to your traditional vegetable sales? Are they kind of like a similar profit margin, some more profitable than the others?
I don't know.
What? Yeah,
we
you do.
don't know. We don't know like the costs of like
the
each
tulip.
thing. Yeah, definitely like the tulips. Well, it just depends. Yeah, we don't break down each crop. The only like thing we really break down is like bed feet per crop.
Yeah, bedfoot. Yeah, so the flower. I think the sunflowers are kind of tracked in there because those are in regular beds.
For sure.
I think it's just the flowers are a weird one because
you have to buy the bulbs.
You have to buy the bulbs. You have to buy them every single year and plant them in new compost. So we could, as far as that, we could figure it out right now and go through the spreadsheet how much, because we have to buy some leaf mulch from a guy down the street to like fill some of those tulip beds.
But I would say the vegetables are probably the most profitable.
Yeah.
Out of everything, just because.
If you broke it down too, we do catnip toys.
Yeah.
That's just catnip that just grows all over the place. That's just time. That's just labor basically. So there's not.
And I guess it's similar with the compost, right? Because if people are paying a deposit, it's essentially time and then a scoop of biochar, and that's really your only expense.
Yeah.
Right. And
And
then,
some
I mean,
fuel.
gas and trailer maintenance.
And I guess the seedlings are all, those would be similar to, because we sell the seedlings a similar price point as like a bunch
Yeah.
of something at a market.
But you have to have the potting soil, the pot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like,
But that all goes into all the
yeah.
crops too. We need the potting soil for the crops.
But
And
before labor, I think we're at an 80% margin across the entire business.
yeah.
So, like, not broken down, but just like how much we spend versus how much the business makes.
Yeah.
And on your various different sales, because I would say it's relatively diverse, of things like the
Mhm.
tea and the smudges, which
Mhm.
Yeah.
you guys bring those in from another person, correct?
No, we
No.
make them
Oh,
and
that's
grow.
all you guys?
Yeah. Yeah, I love herbs. So I grew a lot of herbs for myself for tea, and then we started to dehydrate them and sell them at the market. And then the herbal smudges, my best friend, she's a farmer as well, Ashley, and we do those together.
That's probably what I saw.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, so her and we grow all the herbs and then we wrap all the smudges together.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And now,
Yeah.
how many of those different sort of sales, I guess, different items, different SKUs, you could almost say,
Mhm.
have those just sort of come out naturally as like, oh, look, we have all this catnip, we should do something with it. We're growing flowers for ourselves, maybe we can try selling them. Or were those sort of approached as money making ventures, or more of like, we've got this, we can do it, or we really would like to try to squeeze an extra $3,000 of sales out of this thing. So let's try this instead of, just trying to do 3,000 extra dollars in veggie sales.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it's usually like first comes from like what we are interested in, like what our passions are. And then as like we get kind of more interested in it or maybe like a little bit more experienced with it, then it's like, hey, we could sell this.
Yeah. They all kind
Yeah.
of grew organically.
Yeah.
Like it's even like the seedlings. We would always just start extra ones for ourselves. And then we would bring it to the market and sell those. So that kind of just grew into like a bigger thing to like an actual planned seedling sale every year. Same with like the smudges and cat toys. You kind of just made some, and the tea.
Yeah.
You'd always dehydrate tea for yourself. And then
Right.
you're like, well, this is something we can have in the winter. We'll go harvest some more and try it.
Yeah.
Same with the catnip toys.
For sure.
You made a couple, people loved them. And we're like, well, the catnip's free. You'll just make these too.
Yeah.
And that's something we can make in the winter. So it all kind of just was like little things, and the flowers, they all come up in like February and March. So it's like just made sense, and we tried it and it worked. So we tried more and it worked, and just build from there.
But to your point about that though, like looking forward to this year now, like trying to increase another 10,000. Now
Yeah.
we're actually
Yeah.
having to kind of get strategic about how that might
Mhm.
actually happen
Yeah.
because we don't have
That
more
probably won't
space.
happen now. Yeah, we probably can't expand 10,000 a year, but
Yeah. So now we're actually kind of sitting down with a calculator and being like, well, if we do this many more bucket swaps per year, that could be $1,000 more dollars. And
Mhm.
well, if we can, figure out how to grow more broccolini because that's what people love,
Oh
then
my
Mhm.
gosh, they
grow
love it.
less radishes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's kind of how all the work, like we found the thing that worked, and then we found out how to make it better, and then if it worked, we stuck with it. So
Mm,
every year we're like, is this something that we can do better at, or grow more, or
yeah.
expand in more? And we kind of just, whatever isn't gonna like drive us crazy, we just
Yeah.
try to figure out how to make it bigger.
Right.
Yeah. So do you feel like you coming into 2025, it'll be continue to be more of a growth year, or you guys feel like you're starting after, because this would be your fourth year, correct? Or your fifth year?
This will be our fifth.
Gotcha.
2021. This will
So
be the full year.
No,
Oh, fifth.
this will be the
Yeah.
start of the
Yeah,
fifth.
you're right.
So
Yeah.
after 4 years of being in business and growing, do you guys feel like, yeah, let me refine that question. Do you guys feel like you're still in expansion and growth mode, or are you guys starting to transition into refinement mode?
A little bit. I think we're at the top of that bell curve. I think
For
it can
sure.
go up a little bit more.
Yeah. We're pretty crafty
Yeah, we're
people,
pretty
so-
resourceful. We may, I, like I said earlier, I think at the end of the year, I'm always like, all right, this didn't work, or this summer was really hard.
Yeah.
We probably went almost 3 months without a single drop of rain,
Wow.
Yeah.
and it was a hard summer. It was hot,
We
tomato, and
our green bean plants all
they just would not put on
Yeah.
flowers. It was just
it
too
was too
hot,
hot for them.
and
So
I couldn't keep things watered enough, and things did okay.
it's like
So
Yeah.
now we're like, well, maybe we can do more than 50 because we had a really tough, crazy year, and it still worked out. So every year I'm like, we can do better. So
Yeah.
we'll see. I don't know about doing another. We're
I'm
gonna go for it. We're gonna try to go 10 more
I'm
thousand.
optimistic that we can do it.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a challenge, and we're gonna have to really just make sure we're paying attention to everything really good.
Yeah.
Not letting anything get away from us.
And talking to friends we have all the farms at our farmers market. I'd say we're all really, really good friends now. We hang out all the time. We do stuff with each other all the time. So talking to them with their numbers and the size acreage they have, I think we're all pretty, if they can keep doing more, then we can too. But I don't know
Yeah, and it's also just
how
like
much more they can.
knowing what other people are going to be growing and not,
Mhm.
like one of our friends is like really good at slicer tomatoes. So it's
Mhm.
like, all right, we're not going to even mess around with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why compete?
Yeah, exactly. He has more space and he is just really good at growing them. He has tunnels, so he's
Mhm.
just going to crush it. So it's like, all right, what should we focus on?
Mhm.
So it's like,
Mhm.
all right, we love growing bok choy.
Mhm.
Nobody else is obsessed with bok choy as we are.
Yeah,
So
gang. I love the Asian mustard greens. I'm
yeah,
trying to get my
yes,
customers
yeah.
to love it as much as I do.
Yeah, we grow tons of varieties. We figured out some varieties that do good in the summer. So we're
Yeah.
probably gonna have bok choy year round now. And
Well, not
like our friend sucks
Yeah.
at growing them, so he just grows some for his CSA. He doesn't even bring them to the market. So
Yeah.
it's kind of cool that we have that little community and we all know each other. We all hang out and we all know like who's good at what. And we kind of just phased out some, like we don't do lettuce mix. We just do heads of lettuce.
Yeah.
I hate cutting lettuce mix. I don't want to wash it and bag it. Our other two friends are great at it. They can have
Yeah.
it. We'll
Gotcha.
No
we'll just
issue.
bring romaine.
Yeah.
And how many weeks is your farmer's market every year?
We're year
It's
round.
year round.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So this year we decided we'll take 2 markets off in January just
Pretty good.
because we really don't have much. We kind of just plant for the winter and whatever happens, happens. Like right now, there's ice covering half of the beds. So I'm glad we're not like counting on any of that stuff. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but yeah, we could go year round, but this year we decided like we can kind of take it easy January.
Mhm.
But
All
it's
right.
nice that the market's there every
Yeah, that
week.
is really nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
because we previously I picked a longer market than some of the other ones and still
Mhm.
wasn't quite long enough and was having to get creative in certain times of the year. And yeah,
Mhm.
now we're jumping on to what potentially could be a year-round market. And so yeah, it's definitely like I said, it's great sales-wise. It's not awesome on the like workload wise because you're like, yeah, there's no stopping. I mean, like, yeah, you can
Yeah.
choose to take a couple weeks off, but it's
Right.
Yeah.
the hustle doesn't end.
Yeah. It was hard to get into like this. It was such like a relief this year that like we could plan some time off. Like
Because
was-
we haven't
we did it for
market.
3 years. Yeah.
We had a single market for
Yeah.
3
3
years.
years.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we don't have a market. We're skipping this week.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
it's exciting to have a bit of a
All right.
bit of
I
Yeah.
want to jump over to the labor side of things because
Yeah.
I
Oh,
find
sure.
that because I feel like that's probably, at least with me personally, like I don't keep track of how many hours I work. I basically just work
Mhm.
as many as I possibly can. Have
Yeah.
zero idea what my actual like what I'm paying myself per hour. So I don't even really know where to start, but I'll just kind of let you get into that and just
Yeah.
sort of break down
Sure.
like break down your hours.
Yeah. So this is the first year we've tracked labor.
Mhm.
So it's definitely not perfect numbers because some weeks we'd be like, oh man, it's Friday. We haven't broke down our labor for the week yet.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of guesstimation, but yeah, for the
It's close.
2024, we came up with 3,884 hours, and that's for us combined, the two of us, which averaged out comes out to 37 hours each per week.
Mhm.
But that's like thinking about like, so our April was our highest month with 429 hours, but then December is 189 hours. So it kind of like some,
Yeah, it's
you
like
know, like
55, 60 hours a week in the spring and summer, and then in the fall and winter,
like
like
25 hours
20,
a week.
maybe 30.
Yeah. And then we came up with, so we in 2024, we paid ourselves a salary combined of $41,425. So we divide the total number of hours we worked, we come out with $10.66 per hour. Which
doesn't sound like a lot.
It doesn't sound like a lot, but I'm pretty proud of that.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome.
Which,
Yeah.
I used to work for $10 an hour, other jobs. So to do it for ourselves, like, that's pretty kick ass, I think.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I don't want to do the math. I don't want to know what I pay myself.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
probably pretty abysmal. It's definitely not minimum wage, I can tell you that much.
Yeah. Well, and other friends that we know have talked about like, oh, like I wonder if we can like hire someone. And like, especially after this year, I'm like, have you done the math though? Like we can barely pay ourselves like a reasonable, it's great for us, but like for most Americans, like that would not cut it for like a single person. So
yeah,
when people start talking about hiring people, I'm like, are you making the wage though? Like that you would feel comfortable paying someone? Like,
right.
Yeah.
Well, it was definitely enlightening seeing that this year. And like, I kind of like 37 hours seems reasonable. We still had fun in the summer and did stuff, and we weren't dying all summer. Some months are tough, but
yeah, we thankfully have a river 10 minutes from our house.
Yeah.
So we spend a lot of summer afternoons
Yeah.
cooling down.
And has that hourly load, obviously I know you guys have only been doing this full time for the two of you just for a little while, but I mean, do you feel like that amount of hours and that sort of distribution of hours is going to be pretty typical?
I think so. I mean, there's still times like it's our farm and it's our house. So like there's definitely times where in these hours I'm like going inside and grabbing a snack, and then I'm on my phone for 10 minutes having a drink, and then like just kind of like mosey on back outside. So
but I think it's like I could see it like maybe the labor either going up or going down. I don't know. We're busybodies. We like to be outside doing stuff. So I don't really know.
I think if it was two people,
about the same.
Yeah, two people, only hand tools. Yeah. I think people could reasonably expect it to be like a normal like 30, 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that, you're including your time standing at the farmer's market, setting up at the farmer's market, driving to the farmer's market. That's not, you're not doing 37 hours a week on the soil, like planting, harvesting. Yeah.
No, the farmer's market day is huge.
Yeah, we count that as like 10 hours or something.
It's both of us in the car for an hour and a half each. So that's like,
oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's 45 minutes to the market and then 45 home. And then I usually wake up early and I'm packing up the car. So we count all that. And so I guess, I mean, if it was up to me, I wouldn't be counting any of that except for like maybe the 4 hours or 6 hours at the market. But
we think about like if we had to pay somebody to do that,
absolutely,
they'd be getting paid for the commuting time. So, and this also includes like all of my spreadsheet work, which is probably more than other people's.
But I think in reality, like that, for the scale that we have, that I think is those labor hours are the most important. That's how we make this work, is like we're constantly every year adjusting the crop plan to get the very most out of what we can get. And it's a lot of planning to get from start of spring to the end of the fall, and like making sure that you always have something ready. There's always a plan for what's in the bed now, what's coming up next. So
but
I think that's the most important.
I think it feels good. We're really, really happy when September arrives, though.
Yeah.
It's like you turn the corner into September and you're like, okay, things are slowing down.
Start to slow down a little bit.
And it's a little different for us because we don't have we grow everything outside. We don't have any greenhouses that we grow in except for like propagation houses. So we are kind of done. Like the greenhouse is empty in October. Everything's planted and we're done with that. So maybe a little different if you have greenhouses and you're going to harvest throughout the winter. But
yeah, and looking at the expenses and such, I was relatively surprised at like looking. It's like $1,600 on amendments for the year for 1 a 1/4 acre section.
Does that seem low?
No, honestly, I was thinking like how little I spent on fertilizer, and
Yeah.
I were just thinking like, oh my God, I need to be spending way more on fertilizer.
Yeah,
Well,
that does include
potting soil, right?
potting soil is in there. It's kind of like my categories are kind of weird.
Yeah.
And I think wood chips might be in there too,
Yeah.
which probably doesn't make a lot of sense, but
But I think, yeah, just potting
Yeah.
soil and amendments, because the
Yeah.
potting soil is pretty expensive.
yeah, for
Are
sure.
you guys using like? Are you guys getting stuff from like Seven Springs?
We have gone to Seven Springs.
Yeah.
We love that place. But Country Farm and Home, it's kind of far from us, but it's a great place. They give a discount for like bulk orders and stuff. And we get our seed potatoes, and we're going to get some onions from them this year.
Uh-huh.
So we have to go there like and sweet potatoes.
Yeah.
So we have to go there once or twice a year anyway. So we just bring the truck and load it up with fertilizer and potting soil then.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, so I'd say realistically, probably spending about $1,000, $1,200 a year on like actual soil amendments.
Probably,
That
yeah.
sounds about right.
Yeah, because it's all the basic stuff. We get like Harmony, and then there's like blood or bone meal, and then
Yeah.
I think like some kelp and alfalfa meal, humic acid, which I think has been next to biochar one of the best things. But
Yeah.
yeah, pretty standard stuff. I kind of just math it out based on like recommendations, and it's like 2.5 pounds of fertilizer per 25 feet.
Mhm.
I think that's kind of in the middle range in most places.
Yeah, no, I'm really impressed with how lean you guys have managed to do that. I feel like a $10,000 expense. Yeah, so for people following along at home, yeah, your
Yeah.
expenses for 2024 was $10,163, not
Yeah.
including farm income like labor.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like you guys are running a tight ship over there.
Yeah, we tried to. And like I said earlier, like some stuff is just stupid the way we do it, but like
What? Like what's stupid?
but well, maybe not stupid, but for example, carrots. Carrots are notoriously hard to grow. They're hard to germinate. We never had a Jang seeder or anything. We seed everything by hand, but we have this system. We use conduit and we seed it by hand, and it works. We get
We
great germinate.
the conduit
Yeah.
into the bed surface to
Oh,
create,
to
like,
kind of make a
channel.
furrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then just
So we try to just find ways to work with what we already have.
yeah, and it works.
Yeah.
I mean, we get amazing germination. Carrots are a huge thing for us in the spring and the
Yeah.
fall, and it works. And we're like, why mess with it?
Mm.
We don't need
But-
a Jang.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that would cut
It's like
down on
some of
labor.
the things that's like we've been wanting to redo our irrigation system, right? And that needs to happen, but it hasn't been in the budget because we had other things that really needed to happen
Yeah.
before that. Like we needed the propagation greenhouse last year, so that needed to happen.
Mhm.
So this year, like we get to upgrade our irrigation, and it's like the amount of labor and just how much better it's going to be.
Yeah.
It's like one of those things where it's like, oh man, we should, maybe have just spent the money 3 years ago, but
Mhm.
it's just like it's worked well enough. And then we figure out how we really want it.
Yeah.
And then when we're finally ready to spend the money, we can set it up well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, are you
Yeah.
I know some guys, I've heard them talk about their farm finances in a sense of where like they like strategically work in such a way, or they buy in such a way to where they're spending like the first part of the season basically just doing expenses, like paying for the farm to operate, and then taking the remainder of the year to sort of pay themselves.
Right.
If that makes any sort of sense, or are you
Yeah.
or just kind of are you like front loading the season where it's like extremely expense heavy? Like, let's go ahead and just buy everything that we need for the entire season, get it knocked out. We want to do this irrigation project. We're going to buy it and then just kind of recoup that cost so that we can then kind of squirrel some away for 2026? Or are you more just sort of like kind of keeping this constant cash flow of money in, money out throughout the season?
That I'd say like in the beginning, we usually have money. Especially early, we were kind of uncertain like how much to pay ourselves. So
Yeah.
at the end of the year, we kind of just had some money left over.
Yeah.
And we're like, if we're gonna do this, this money needs to go back in the beginning because we're not making money in like January and February.
Right.
Mhm.
So then we kind of just always have a few thousand that like gets us through. We can buy most of our amendments and potting soil and stuff like to get the season going. And usually by March or April, that cash flow is kind of just coming in. We're not really worried about it. So our plan now is like we use the money we need, that like little bit left over, we use that to get going. And then hopefully at the end of the year, there's a big chunk that we haven't paid ourselves and we could save that for taxes, and whatever's left over, we determine what should we keep, and then we'll pay ourselves the rest of that. So
Yeah.
I don't know if we do it the right way, but we've just found the way that may sound crazy to like some person that went to business school or something, but
It works for us.
yeah, that's how everything for us has gone with the farms. Just we found out what worked for us and just tried to only spend the money we needed and
Mhm.
upgrade stuff as it comes up and as we like absolutely need.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. Sometimes you're wondering like, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing this the right way?
Yeah.
And you sort of, I think once you've done something for a little while, you're like, this works. This works for us. It works in our context. And it's like that that is going to have to mean that it's right. Whether it's
Yeah.
the technically right way, like is this the exact way that the farm experts say it should be done? It's like, I don't know, but this, it in our context. Cause I've seen some farms that they front load the season and they just spend, 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 spend. They
Mhm.
have a super tight crop plan. They know exactly how much seed to buy. They just drop, one massive order at the beginning of the season. And then I've worked on another farm where a Johnny's box comes about once every 5 or 6 months. And there's another pallet from Seven Springs that comes about every 6 to 8 weeks.
Mhm.
And it works for them, and they've done it for 30 years. So why stop? Why change it now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess there's some things that we do. Some things we do buy like right in the beginning of the year. It's like, cool, we don't have to worry about that the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And then other
Sometimes
stuff
we
just,
split up like over two things. We
yeah.
don't like buy all of our fertilizer in one go. We
Yeah.
usually just split it into two.
We get like one big chunk and then finish off the year.
Yeah.
Same with the seeds. We do a big seed order for spring and fall or spring and summer. And then we usually have a little bit of fall seed to carry over for fall. And then we'll just order up the rest
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
kind of plan ahead and maybe like, oh, let's just buy the bigger thing of carrots because we'll need it for the spring too.
Right.
Yeah.
So same
yeah,
with like the money stuff kind of just carries over and
Yeah.
it works.
Awesome.
But
Well,
yeah, the data. If you have the data, you know how much money you're going to need. So
exactly. I
Yeah.
think that
it's a
is
lot easier.
I think that's the biggest thing that I wanted to highlight. So thank you for reminding me of bringing on and just showing this. One is just transparency, because
Yeah.
so many people talk about like, I can, I can gross $120,000 on a quarter acre. And it's like, great. What does that look like? What
Mhm.
are you paying? And, are you up to your eyeballs in debt? And so you're not paying
Mhm.
yourself at all. I've mentioned it on the other podcast a couple of times, had a conversation with the farmer. And he's like, dude, I did $105,000 in sales. I'm like, that's awesome. He's like, yeah, and my expenses were like $90,000. I'm like, oh my God, like I didn't
Yeah.
make anything last year.
Yeah.
And so, that big number of what your sales are, that's a great thing to shoot for. And it's the big sexy number. But the
Mhm.
reality of it is it's like seeing, what the 153 you got for a grant, and the $1,000 or $1,097 that you spent on gasoline. Like all of those little things add up, and they paint a realistic picture of what it actually takes to run a farm. And that's the
Yeah.
biggest reason why I wanted to bring you guys on to talk about that, was just because it's we always just need more transparency. We
Yeah.
need
Yeah.
more farms, especially small farms. You guys being able to do those numbers on a quarter acre, I feel like is impressive, but also extremely realistic. It's not,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not 120,000 on a quarter acre where you grow microgreens and lettuce mix and, salad radishes, and that's about it. It's like, no, like you
Mhm.
guys have I've seen your farmers market displays. You have a nice round mix of stuff, and it's good. And so I just want to be able to paint as realistic of a picture for people out there, the Brittany's and the Richards and the Alex in 2019, who are like, oh, this sounds like a fun thing. To be
Yeah.
able to have
Yeah.
someone who can say like, here's the realistically, after 40 years of business, here's realistically what you can expect. Like two
Yeah.
people are living very frugally, but working full time on a business that they've, totally self-sufficiently on their own business. And this is how much we pay in this and that and whatever. And so it's extremely beneficial. So thank you
Yeah.
thank you first and foremost for all of your transparency and for
Yeah.
having the discipline to write it all down, because I was not nearly as disciplined
Yeah.
as you are.
Well, and
Well,
that's where this, like, writing it all down, that 50,000 number was the first number that went in that notebook when we were like, how much do we need to make, like, as a couple? Like, how much do we need
Mhm.
to survive? And we're like, if we could do 50,000, we could run a farm. And like year 4, we finally hit it.
yeah.
It
Yeah.
worked up until then, but it took 4 years of like making mistakes, learning from other people, and slowly just being very frugal building up to that. So
Yeah, and then with the, like, transparency of showing the numbers that like, in the food co-op world, it's called open book management,
mm,
and it's a really common practice in food co-ops to have open finances. So, I think that's kinda where
I
it
love
came
that.
from. I've That's been a normal thing for me to see and be a part of, and when we started the business, I was like, "Let's just share everything," like,
mhm.
and he's like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah, because we wanna know other people's numbers," like,
Yeah.
and it just really helps anybody new or just anybody who's curious
Mhm.
Mhm.
know
And we
what's
never saw it
happening.
out there. We never
Right.
saw anyone
No.
talk about
That's why I jumped
how
at it. I
much
was
they
like, "Oh
made.
my god, they just put it all out there." It was almost like,
Yeah.
I can't believe they just showed me that,
Yeah, yeah.
like, you know?
I get
Yeah.
I get more nervous, like, are people like customers will come up and be like, "Oh, that's so cool that you show that." I'm like, "Oh, like, you know how little money we make?" Like, it's not for us. Like,
We feel so
we feel so blessed that we can actually, like, make a living doing this, and this number is, like, a good number for us. But, like,
yeah.
I know a lot of people would look at that and be like, "How do they do
They're
that?"
like, "We'll take another, but
They're like,
it's
"There's no
easy."
yeah." They're like, "There's no way you live off of that." It's like,
Yeah.
"But, you know, this is, like, the most money we've made in
This is a
the
second.
second most amount of money we made in, like, 8 years, and
Yeah.
Mhm.
we live comfortably." So
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
no,
you can do it out there too.
yeah, that was exactly my next thought was, like, I wonder what your customers think when they see that. One,
Yeah.
I think it's just you know, no one has ever, like, failed at life because they were too transparent. I
Right.
mean
Right,
I mean,
yeah.
I don't know, maybe you could say some stuff that could get you in trouble, but for the most part, it's like more transparency is generally better.
Yeah.
And, if you have the customer that's like, "Man, like, that much for a bunch of carrots," and then they see the numbers, it's like, "Oh, wow, like, no, they have to charge X, Y, and Z," because,
Yeah.
I've gotten very little comments in this first year of growing. I've got very little comments, and I'm like, "Well, that's expensive for that." And usually if it is, it's like someone who wasn't gonna buy anything anyways. But,
Right.
I
Yeah.
always have the, like, canned answer in my back pocket of like, "Well, this is what I have to charge in order to make a living, and if I wanna do this long term and be able to provide you with something, this is what I have to charge." And, and so but instead of that just being, like, something I pull out of my ass, that it's like, I mean, this is what I think I can charge, and I'm trying to, like, push the upper limits of what is possible so I can make as much profit as I can.
Yeah.
Like, you
Yeah.
can actually say, like, "No, this is why we charge what we charge, and this is what it goes to, and this is how much we're making." And I feel like, as a consumer, if more of my products, I understood exactly what it was costing me and what it was costing them to produce that, it would definitely encourage me to become a more conscious shopper, and then probably a more loyal customer as well.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
And
it's
yeah.
it's the same, like, people know our customers know our growing practices.
Mhm.
Mhm.
They can come see
They're always welcome
everything.
to
There's,
come
like,
here. Yeah.
nothing to hide here, it's like, we're just putting it out there and just the people who resonate with us
Yeah.
are
And it could be our
um,
market too. Like,
yeah,
our market is amazing. It's in a great area.
yeah,
There's all sorts of different, like, income, like, stream, like, people have very different incomes in that area. And we also, like, I know people have said, like, "Oh, if people aren't worried about your price, you should charge more." But I think we feel good about, like, what we charge. And I don't know if
Mhm.
it's just our market, but it's been enough.
yeah,
But yeah, it is a little stressful. You have to make all the we made $50,000 like $3 or $4 at a time. And it definitely, I think people at our market understand, like, this is not easy. And I think the prices have worked out well for us. So
yeah.
So we're
that's
shooting for
hard for me.
60,000 for 2025?
We'll see.
Yeah, well, maybe January of 26 we'll have to check back in, and we'll do
Yeah.
we'll do your annual report. Well,
Awesome.
Yeah.
so we can do that. But
Yeah, she's already adding new columns to the spreadsheets so we can have more data. So
Here.
yeah. Well, we're probably going to wrap this one up. But if folks want to know more about you guys and kind of what you got going on and nerd out with all of your data, where can they best find you?
Yeah, so we have stuff on our website, sunandsoilfarm.wordpress.com. Of course, we don't pay for a URL.
Yeah, that's
But
just
yeah, they
cutting
can
into
find us.
profit.
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
And then our Instagram is Sun and Soil Farm. And then you can link over. We have a YouTube video or YouTube channel where we do some videos. We'll probably do more stuff on farming in the future. I want to do some nerdy finance videos at some point whenever I get around to that.
Yeah. But the Instagram,
yeah,
she's really
Instagram.
good about posting stuff
Yeah.
on there multiple times a week. So
Mhm.
yeah. And we're just wrapping up. We started our first trays of seeds this morning. So
Yes.
Awesome.
the year has begun.
Awesome. Well, Brittany, Richard, thank you guys so much for joining us on the Rookie Farmer podcast. And we will,
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you. It was so much fun talking.
yeah, and we will check in with you guys in 2026.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you.
Awesome.
See ya.
All right. Once again, big thanks to Brittany and Richard for sitting down and talking with me. There's a lot of good stuff that I'm going to have to go through and unpack, and I need to figure out how I can make that composting concept work on our farm, because I would love to be able to close the loop, bring some of that waste back onto the farm, and then feed that to the soil. That'd be really great. And like Brittany said, she is a big spreadsheet nerd, and she has some other great bits of wisdom that I really want to share with you guys. So if you enjoyed this episode, comment, share this with someone, send a DM, and let us know so that hopefully we can have them back on to talk about some other amazing topics related to their small farm there. And like we say every week, big thanks to Diego and the whole team over at Modern Grower for making this possible. None of this would be happening if it wasn't for the work that you guys are doing and supporting us doing this. And if you want to check out more of the other shows, Farm Small, Farm Smart, Carrot Cash Flow, all the great stuff over there on the Modern Grower Podcast Network, you can go to your podcast player of choice or go to the Modern Grower YouTube channel and you can check out all of those shows. And just a reminder that we believe in value for value. If you were getting any sort of value out of this show, if the information that we're giving you, if the people that we're bringing on to interview are giving you bits of information and bits of knowledge that will make you a better grower, then please consider kicking some of that value back our way. This show requires infrastructure, camera equipment, and a lot of time to make this possible. And so by you giving us a donation, it really allows us to continue to make these podcasts throughout the whole year. So if you want to send us $10, $50, $100, or even 50 cents, whatever you want to do, we are greatly appreciative of anything that you send our way. You can go to Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, whatever you want to, and look for @CropCultureFarm, and you can send us a little bit of value for the value that we've given to you. And if you're a rookie farmer, if you're a veteran farmer, if you're someone in the industry who maybe you work with seeds, maybe you work with compost, whatever it may be, and you think that you have something that you can contribute to the conversation, then please reach out to us. Send me a DM at the Rookie Farmer Podcast, or you can shoot me an email at cropculturefarm@gmail.com. And I would love to get in touch so we can get some more episodes going, because there is so much knowledge and information out there that I want to share with the world. And I need your guys' help to make that happen. Once again, I'm your host, Alec, and you've been listening to the Rookie Farmer Podcast. Peace.